We all know that the majority of moves delivered in a wrestling match are done with the full cooperation of both wrestlers in the ring. However, there are times when a match can steer off in a totally different direction, and two wrestlers or more can start legitimately fighting during a match. There are several reasons for this. They range from a spot going wrong in the match, which sequentially angers one of the wrestlers, or the two individuals simply don't like each other and they decide rather inappropriately to settle the score in the middle of a match. So, with that being said, let's take a look at 10 pro wrestling matches that turned into legitimate shoot fights. Number 10. Koko B. Ware vs. The Masked Patriot. Most fans remember Koko B. Ware for his lovable Birdman gimmick that got him inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2009. What many fans don't know is that the beloved wrestler was once involved in a match back in the 1980s that turned into a legitimate shoot fight. Koko was wrestling the Masked Patriot for the Continental Wrestling Association promotion when the match turned incredibly physical. For unknown reasons, the Masked Patriot began to be extremely stiff with Koko in the ring. The Masked Patriot would deliver real punches to the face of Koko, which Koko responded back with his own range of stiff offense, and one specific shot actually knocked the Masked Patriot out. That wasn't the end of the mayhem, as Koko continued shooting on his opponent with kicks to the head. Koko then picked up the Masked Patriot and delivered a shoot brainbuster and pinned him for the victory. Number 9. Chris Jericho vs. Shane McMahon.
Shane O'Mac so pumped up for this match tonight as Shane O'Mac with the lefts and rights driving Jericho to the mat.
Shane McMahon has always been popular with fans as well as talent backstage, so much so that a number of talents have come forward to say that working with Shane in the ring was one of the highlights of their career. The same can't be said for wrestling legend Chris Jericho, who had a physical confrontation with Shane back at Survivor Series in 2016. Both Jericho and Shane were wrestling as part of their respective teams for the traditional Raw vs. SmackDown match. During the match, for seemingly no reason, Shane began to legitimately punch Jericho in the face. Jericho admits that Shane clearly wasn't doing this out of malicious intent, he was simply overexcited about being in the ring. Jericho responded by some harsh words directed to Shane before kicking him right in the face to finally get the message across that Shane needed to calm down. Number 8. Steiner Brothers vs. Nasty Boys. When the Nasty Boys joined WCW in 1990, they were immediately thrown into a feud with the Steiner Brothers. The main reason for this was that there were a number of complaints from fellow WCW wrestlers that the Steiner Brothers were far too stiff in the ring and nobody wanted to work with them. Therefore, when the two teams met at the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, the match would seriously blur the lines in relation to what was real. The two teams would exchange stiff shots and moves throughout the entire match. It was clear that Rick and Scott Steiner went into the match expecting the match to go their way. However, when the Nasty Boys gave genuine offense back, the match turned into a rather unconventional contest. Number 7. Brock Lesnar vs. Braun Strowman. Brock Lesnar is well established as being one of the toughest wrestlers on the planet. Therefore, when Braun Strowman decided to go a little too stiff on the former UFC champion in 2018, he found out the hard way why nobody crosses the beast. The incident took place during a triple threat match which also featured WWE legend Kane. In the match, Braun would get overly physical with Lesnar with stiff knees and shots being delivered to Lesnar. Lesnar responded by punching Braun in the face. It was clear that if Braun didn't calm down, Lesnar would give Braun the beating of a lifetime in the middle of the ring. According to Braun, once the two men got backstage, Braun apologized to Lesnar, and the two were reportedly on good terms with each other moving forward. Number 6. Ken Shamrock vs. Vader. Vader and Ken Shamrock are two of the toughest wrestlers to ever step foot in a squared circle, and their match at In Your House, A Cold Day in Hell in 1997 was testament to this. The match would act as Shamrock's first ever match on WWE pay-per-view, and Shamrock clearly forgot that he wasn't actually supposed to hit his opponent, as he would give Vader a number of shoot punches that actually broke Vader's nose. Vader would actually inform Shamrock to ease up, but this did little to stop Shamrock. This led to Vader giving Shamrock one of the stiffest lariats ever, which almost beheaded Shamrock. The two managed to continue the match without too much commotion, and Shamrock quickly learned that WWE was extremely different from the MMA world, which he was accustomed to. Number 5. Perry Saturn vs. Mike Bell. When Perry Saturn took on Mike Bell during a taping of WWE Metal in 2001, the match was supposed to act as a basic enhancement match for Saturn. During the course of the match, Bell would botch a number of basic moves, and Bell would even botch an arm drag, which resulted in Saturn landing on his head. Saturn was absolutely incensed that Belle had botched these moves, so Saturn decided to shoot on Belle. Saturn would deliver punches to Belle's face, and he would throw him through the ropes with so much velocity that Belle landed on his head. Saturn would deliver a number of moves that were clearly one-sided on the cooperation side of things, and Saturn would even target Belle's neck in some incredibly scary spots. Once the match was over, even Saturn's manager Terry Runnels would kick Belle as he was exiting the ring to add insult to injury. Saturn was heavily criticized by WWE management backstage following the incident. Even WWE icon Stone Cold Steve Austin later came forward to state that Saturn's way of handling the incident was not appropriate. Saturn would be given the infamous moppy gimmick shortly after the incident with Belle, and that was unfortunately the beginning of the end of his once promising career. Number 4. Kurt Angle vs. Daniel Puder. Back in 2004, Kurt Angle and Tough Enough star Daniel Puder would square off in what was presented as a shoot-style match. The plan and intended outcome was for Angle to win, but this plan quickly went out the window. Puder decided to lock in a shoot armbar on Angle, and Angle was actually close to tapping out, which could have seriously impacted Angle's credibility. Due to the match turning into a real-life shoot, the referee had to pretend that Puder's shoulders were down on the mat to award Angle the victory. When the incident initially happened, fans were confused as to what had just gone down, but a report later released by Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer confirmed that Puder decided to shoot on Angle. He revealed, "It was real. If you don't follow fighting, Puder had Angle locked in the Kimura, or key lock as Taz called it, although Taz didn't let on that the move was fully executed. Not only was Angle not getting out of the move, but most MMA fighters would have tapped already. Angle couldn't tap for obvious reasons. The ref counted a 3 even though Puder's shoulders weren't fully down, trying to end the thing because the reality was Angle would have been in surgery if it had gone a few seconds longer or had Puder not given up the hold." Number 3. APA vs. the Public Enemy.
I don't know if the referee's afraid to count. Oh, gosh, look at that chair.
Bradshaw and Farouk had quite the reputation for being no-nonsense wrestlers, particularly during the Attitude Era. Therefore, when there was an issue backstage with the APA and the Public Enemy relating to their match finish, the APA decided to legitimately beat the Public Enemy up during the course of the match. Bruce Pritchard revealed that the APA felt disrespected by the Public Enemy taking issue to the match finish, and the APA naturally decided to take it to them in the match in a rather physical manner. Following the match, the two teams shook hands and parted ways. Shortly after the incident, the Public Enemy were released from WWE. It was put down to the duo not getting over, but the common consensus is that this incident was the catalyst that led to their WWE departures. Number 2. William Regal vs. Goldberg. The match between William Regal and Goldberg in WCW back in 1998 is one of the most infamous matches in WCW history. The match was supposed to be a simple squash match with Goldberg attaining yet another victory. However, Regal decided to legitimately wrestle Goldberg with shoot amateur-style wrestling moves. There's been some debate over the years in relation to what truly happened during the match. Some state that Regal was told that the match was supposed to be a competitive match, while some claim that Regal simply wanted to shoot on WCW's rookie. According to former WCW president Eric Bischoff, it was Regal who initiated the shoot elements of the match, and it was Regal simply going too far. Bischoff stated on his podcast that, "Personally, I've never talked to Bill or Regal about this, so I don't know what their individual perspectives are. And they were the two that were involved, so it's really their opinions that are the only ones that matter. I'm telling you what my expectations and rationale behind the match was, but I think, in my opinion, with all due respect to Mr. Regal, he went too far. He wanted more than we wanted him to take. It went a little farther than it should have." Number 1. Nia Jax vs. Charlotte Flair. On paper, Nia Jax vs. Charlotte Flair sounds like a typical match that fans would see on Raw, but this particular match was a stark contrast to the matches that the two women have had before. The match in question took place on the August 30th, 2021 edition of Raw, and during the match, the two appeared to shoot on each other in rather shocking fashion. The two would exchange real slaps and punches, and it was completely out of the blue, as both women appeared to be on good terms and seemed to be friends outside of the ring. PW Insider would later report that there was a tense confrontation in the middle of the match that led to the physicality, although they didn't elaborate on what the center of the issue actually was. PW Insider also noted that the two women were fine once they got backstage, so the apparent issue was settled in the ring.